Welcome back to PSC Camper Conversions. This is a series of videos on personal transportation for campers. So what kind of transportation can you use when you're camping and you want to go to, you just want to travel and not take your camper? So this is the video that is going to be on electric bikes. There's a card above, right here above, and you can click on that. That will take you back to the first video, which will have an overview of all the bikes we're going to go through, electric bike, electric scooter, gas bike, skateboards, all that. So if you want to click there and start there, they'll be chained together and you can watch the whole series. So today is about e-bikes. E-bikes have a lot of great features and people really love these things because they're so quiet and eco-friendly, but they really are expensive. So when I started my search, I couldn't afford the expensive ones. So I started looking at different things, and what's so confusing is that there's different wattages, there's different voltages, there's quotes are all over the place for distance and speed, and so it was pretty confusing. But I watched a lot of videos and I actually found this one. This is really on the lower end of electric bikes. This is the Ancheer. They have several different models. This is the upgraded model. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It's only got a 250 watt motor in the back, and I thought, well, you know, that's going to be way too small. You can see it's really small. In fact, it's hard to tell it's even there. This bike does not really look like your regular bike because they hide the battery up here in this bag. And the way it's set up, though, you have to leave the bag on the bike to recharge it, but I got a mod. I'm going to show you how. Very easy mod where you can take this off the bike and take it inside and charge it. So in order to go fast, you need two different things. You need a high wattage motor and you need a higher voltage battery. And to go far, you need more battery. So people want to go faster and faster and farther and farther. So that's how these things start getting really expensive, into the $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 range, is based on how fast you want to go. Well, I'm not really concerned that much about speed, but speed is fun. But what I want to do is I want to go as far as I can with as little effort as possible. So even though this is only our 250 watt motor, the top speed is rated at 15 miles an hour. And I found with these electric bikes, scooters, and skateboards is the top speed is fairly accurate. So far I've been able to do those things. But since I live in the mountains, I can't really give you an honest distance. But this one is rated at 15 to 30 miles of distance. And I have watched a couple videos, and this is my take on that. If you are 150 pounds, and you're going to put it in the lowest speed, and you're completely flat, and you don't pedal at all, you're going to get about 15 miles, maybe a little less. If you weigh a little more, if you're more mountainous hills, it's going to be a little lower. Now, where they're getting the 30 miles from is if you pedal, and that's the beautiful thing about this bike, is the pedal assist. And that's what got me interested when I was watching the other videos about it, is okay, you know, I stopped riding bikes when I moved to the mountains because you get to the top of the first hill and you're dead. You know, you want to go back home. Even though you can fly down the hill, you still got to come back and get back over it. So that was a real negative. I stopped riding bicycles, but this has allowed me to get back riding. In fact, there's a video of a similar bike, actually I think it is this bike, where a man who had cardiac surgery was able to use this for his rehabilitation because he could get as little, as much assist as he wanted to. And it's a really neat video. I'll try to find that and try to link it below. There'll be links below to all the videos, to all the products I'm going to show you and everything like that. So this one, even though it's only 250 watts, it'll still get good speed. You can still go good distances. And the great thing about the electric hub motors is when you run out of electricity, you just pedal like a regular bike. And this particular bike is 21 speeds. So let's look at that real quick. Where they get the 21 speeds is right here. Is right here. It might be hard to see. There are 3 gears. 1, 2, 3. Now I only basically, out of the 20, and then you got 7 in the back here, which is kind of typical. So when you can have this, there's 2 different controllers for this, one for the front and one for the back. So the combination will give you 21 gears. You don't need 21 gears. Well, I leave this one on the highest gear, or the hardest to pedal, on the front. And then I generally just change the back one around from first to third to 7. So just getting started, maybe the stoplight, I might have it on first or second and get going. And then if I'm flying, I've got it in high speed and I want to just really get going, I go ahead and put it in the highest gear here. So your highest gear here and here. And so you can go above 15 miles an hour that way. They have another model of this bike, which is a little bit cheaper. And the difference is it has spoke wheels here and here. It has a kind of a dip down here, so it's not as straight here. It has the same drive, so it has the same batteries, same, also all the electrics are all the same. So the main difference is they've moved the electrical box, which used to be here, up to here, which is a smart move, because I think the water wasn't a very good idea to have your electric box right here where water would hit it. And then they moved the suspension up here, so I just think it's kind of a little better layout. So I opted for this one. Also, your front tire is going to be a quick release, which makes it very nice. So you can just pop this lever right here and you can take the front tire off. Also, this bike folds in half, and I'll show you a bit later what that looks like when it's folded up. Another feature is you get a little light here and you get a horn. So the way you turn it on is you go over to this controller here, press and hold the middle button. This is how much battery you've got. Now, when I was looking at this, I'm like, oh, it's got a throttle. So here is your throttle right here. And so you can turn out that, well, you know, I'm not going to use that electrical assist. I'm just going to use the throttle all the time. I was completely wrong. I don't use the throttle at all anymore. I just start pedaling in whatever mode I want. So if you do want to just do throttle only, push the left one and the lights go out. If you want a little assist, which is going to get you the longest distance, put it on low. And what happens is it'll pick a certain speed to go, and then the more you pedal, the more it'll back off with the electric power, but it'll keep you at that certain speed. So the speed will be constant, and you can add in or subtract, and it'll pick up the workload or reduce the workload. Medium is going to be a little faster, and then high is the fastest, which is a lot of fun. Now here is the adjustment for the 3 front gears on the pedal, which I don't use at all. And then here is the shifter here. Found it works pretty good. I did have to adjust it a little bit. When I go over about the assembly and shipping, I'll talk about that. You've got front and rear brakes, which is really nice because it has the disc brakes. I did have to adjust those a little bit. There's plenty of videos on that. Both brake pads were rubbing just a little, and I wanted to be as efficient as possible, so I adjusted these. There's a couple little screws that you adjust, and so it takes a little fidgeting with. So here is your battery. It is an 8 amp hour battery. And I also added some other things to the bike. The seat that comes with it is complete and total garbage. It is hard as a rock. After 20 minutes, I just couldn't bear it anymore. I had to get off. I couldn't stand it. So I got this Cloud 9 seat, which has been wonderful. I'll put a link to it because there's several Cloud 9s, and only certain ones will fit this because it has a little bit of an unusual mounting bracket up in here, and you've got to use theirs. This isn't the standard width up in here. So what you have to do is you can't get the ones with the springs on it. There's not enough room for it to clamp on. So I'll put a link to this one if you want it. I got this cool bike rack that just clips right here. It's pretty strong, and it moves. You can undo these screws and it moves forward and backwards. I've ordered a bag which will have Velcro, which will connect to this and have a nice bag for groceries or things. I also got some mud flaps. I went through a lot of different mud flaps. These are mountain bike mud flaps. They're extra wide because when I did end up in the rain, it just flung dirt all up in here. I had to spend quite a while cleaning it up, and then the back tire would fling it up on you. So that's no fun. But what I did when I got caught in the rain is I waited a little bit later in the day where everything dried out, and then I took it back out and ran it a long time to make sure that I didn't get any water or burned out any water that might have been in the motor back here. So let's talk about how it comes. It comes in a box, mostly assembled. It really did not take me long at all to assemble it. It will come with just a bolt right here. The tire will be separate in the box, and so you just unscrew the bolt, and then you put the tire on. It already has the brakes and everything connected, and then you put this new bolt through, and you just tighten this down and then pop the clip, and your front tire's done. You do have to screw on the light, which is right here. The handlebar comes all assembled. You just have to put this screw and this screw and this screw and this screw. So it'll just come hanging on the wires. and then the battery will be in the box. You just it's just velcroed on, so the battery is velcro, and the battery comes off. But not on the bike you'll get out of the box. There'll be a wire there, and I'll get to that. The front was all completely assembled. I did have to put on these, I had to spin on the footrests. You know, the bike, this came connected to this, but this assembly was in the box. You just had to put it in and pop the clip here and tighten that up. Now, mine did get a little bit of damage in shipping, which these things come from China, so it's easy to get them damaged. This box had gotten compressed somehow, and it broke the 4 little screw holes here, so this was loose. So what I had to do is I just opened up the box, loosened up the screws, and then put zip ties around it, zip tied the thing down, and it's been fine. I couldn't get the highest gear. The chain would not come all the way out to this gear right here. It would only come to this one here. And after a lot of fidgeting, what I found out was this is like a brush guard. It had gotten bent in, and it was pushing on here on the highest gear, so it wouldn't let the derailleur come all the way out. So you know, you can see how it's bent, how I had to bend it out right here. So it just may be the way it was designed. Not real sure, but it's not that, the metal's not that tough. I just bent it out and I was done with it. So there is one modification I recommend. Normally, you would plug, this plug would be right here in this box, and you would have to plug this in to charge your battery. And so you couldn't charge your battery, and you couldn't charge the battery unless it was on the bike. And I thought that was really stupid. So I just opened up the box and found out that this wire doesn't have anything to do with the electrical box. It's just a long wire that went from the box to the battery. So I had this connector in the electrical box, and this one goes to the battery. So I just opened up the box. I undid the little screw here on this, and then just pulled it out of the box. So now what I can do is I just connect this into my charger. I take the battery inside, on Velcro it, take the battery inside, and then just plug it in with this plug. Just do that, and then take your battery, and the plug's right under here. I tuck it up into the bag right now, but then when I take it inside, I pull the clip out and plug it in here. And then this is how you plug it up to the bike. It's a disconnect here. So pretty easy, pretty simple. This little support down here helps it when it's folded up. One of the neat things it has is these turn, so that can take up a little less room. So you have a nice bike, you're going to want a bike alarm. So I did a lot of research on bike alarms, and this one's really cool. It works just like a car alarm. And so here is unlock, and here's lock. All right, so it has a little unit that's screwed 2 times up under the seat. And so it's really, you can't just pull it off unless you have a screwdriver and all, but it's really hidden up in here. It also functions as a tail light. That turns on your tail light. I think it's got a couple different, that's it. It's got a little alarm button. I think we can hit it a couple more times. That's solid. That's off. So here that turns on your light, and this is, they have it like as a bell, but it's just really loud. So I'll put a link to that. Be careful there. It's kind of some misleading advertisement. They'll show a picture of the alarm plus the remote and say it's like $10, but once you get there, you have to pick the option for the remote, and the price jumps up considerably. So I'll give you a link to the remote, and it's going to look a lot higher than some of the other ones, but if you really delve into it, you'll see that if you really specifically, be very careful, get one with the remote, because one that doesn't come with a remote, you have to fidget with these buttons under here, and that's pretty useless. So I'll put a link to that one there. Highly recommend it. So what happens is, let's arm it. So then what happens if you come up here and you bump it? It gives you a warning. If you bump it again, it keeps going. So that's a pretty neat feature. You know, somebody could unclip it and just throw the seat away, but the idea is thieves don't want to have people looking at them and noticing them when they're stealing something. So just a little something extra to have there. Another thing you're going to want is a speedometer. Don't use the wireless speedometer, which I first used. It's not compatible with the electrical system. With all the motors and the batteries, it can't get a signal. So I did have to put on a manual one. And it's going to have an odometer, so you'll know exactly how many miles you went, your speed, and a lot of other things. And these are really, really cheap. So those are kind of the accessories I got for it that just make it a better experience. The first thing you want to do is, this is kind of like a little safety right here. So you take that off. That's pretty beefy, right like that. There's a little adjustment here to make it tighter if it's a little loose. There's one where a guy had a little vibration. There's a couple other videos to people who bought these, and I'll try and link those down below so you can kind of get their opinion on it and what kind of sold me. So what happens then is we're going to just pull on here. So here I've just popped the latch and pulled the seat assembly out. I folded it in half, and they've got this nice little bar down here I showed you before, and so when it's folded in half, it can sit on that bar, which is pretty helpful. Here's the joint, and you can see now, right now the widest part is the handlebars. However, what you can do here is you can just loosen these two here with an Allen wrench, and then this will rotate around, and so it'll be much flatter than this, so you'll have about this width. So I think what we need to do next is take this thing out on the road and see what it can do.